Welcome to the Daily Record's new betting show. As we all know, there's nothing like having a couple of bob on the sport over the weekend to help the entertainment and try and boost the bank. And this time, every single week, we're going to attempt to point you in the right direction of a few tasty bets and a bit of value to see if we can win some of that cash. We'll go into a variety of sports over the coming weeks, but given the fact that football is the one that most people are focused on and everybody likes to have a wee coupon on a Saturday, and it's the start of the top four divisions in Scotland in the league season this weekend, we're going to focus on that. It's a fresh page. It's everyone's dreams are intact. Everyone's ready to go with all their aspirations of what they're going to do. Teams hunting titles, teams trying to avoid relegation, all of the stuff. So as well as the games this weekend, we're also going to have a dip into the anti-post markets, because it can often be popular that sometimes if you don't have a bet for a specific weekend, if you take a long-term investment and you go in with a team, you've got them to support all through the season. And having a wee bit of patience in the long-term markets can sometimes pay big benefits. Joining myself, Craig Swan, I'm delighted to welcome sports journalist Fraser Mackie, a man who's adept at finding bets, finding value. He's done it for many years, as you can see by his face. He's been through the wars with the bookies for decades now. Fraser's an expert this type of thing. Fraser, how are you? It's always an exciting time and a little bit of a step into the unknown at this stage of the season, isn't it? It's exciting.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Swanee. Yeah, well, I've been working hard on particularly my Antipost markets over the last few weeks. So, as you said, that's the one that gives you an interest on a weekly basis. You can find a team to follow, whether it's in the relegation market and you want them beaten every week, or whether you want a team promoted. Never did I think I would get to the stage where you're referring to the likes of Stockport County or as we for the 10 months of your life, but that's the fun you can have with anti-post betting. So we'll definitely touch on a bit of that, and also look at some of the, as you say, some of the live games this weekend.
And that's a great thing, Fraser, isn't it? Because it does take away sometimes the requirement to get involved, or maybe a specific weekend where you don't really see one. You're not really keen on getting involved in something. There's nothing stands out to you. You can actually just hold your fire, and you've got your anti-post interest, which then gives you your interest for the weekend, as you say. So it works well, that.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you've got the patience for it, which I discovered quite a few years ago that I do, if you've got the mentality to tie up some of your funds for as I say, for 10 months, it's a great way. And also a great way to find a bit of value, I think, as well, because the bookies at the start of the season are a little bit tentative. So don't be nervous if you've got a firm view and you see a price that's standing out. Maybe they're just a bit as tentative as you are about it, not sure quite how a team's going to work out. But if you've maybe seen your team even that you follow on a weekly basis, who are performing a bit better in pre-season than the bookies have noticed, then that's maybe the time to go in. So particularly markets like top goal scorer, things like that, new signings. The bookies don't know any more than you do really about these guys if you do a little bit of research. So I think it's worth putting in a bit of time to do that. And as I say, yeah, the anti-post markets is a good way to get the season off to a great start and heighten your interest in those early weeks, maybe before you get involved in the fixed odds on a weekly basis.
Well, without further ado, we'll get into the games. We'll start at the top flight in the Premiership. It is as the way these days with live football games. It's a sort of truncated start. Just the two games on Saturday, the live game Hearts Rangers on the television kicks it off, and Motherwell facing Ross County. Fraser, Hearts are 4-1 in places on their own patch, and that's, I would imagine, would tempt some people, but they really haven't been able to lay a glove on Rangers in recent times. So it's one that's maybe it's a tricky one for punters to get started for the weekend with the Motherwell Ross County game as well. What do you think, looking at the opening two games?
Yeah, listen, I think the fact that Rangers and Hearts are playing friendlies only probably makes this a little bit tougher. New signings seem to be flying into Rangers now, so it's really difficult to get a gauge on them. But I can fully understand why Hearts have gone 4-1, given that we've approached Hearts Rangers games at Tynecastle many times, perhaps when Rangers are in a little bit of a dodgy run sometimes, and the presumption is that whipped up Tynecastle is not the kind of place they want to go. But for some reason, under various managers, they seem to, when they're doubted, they seem to go to Tynecastle and get a result. I can't put anyone off 4-1 Hearts. I mean, look what happened last season to Rangers down at Rugby Park in the first day of the season. It's when the bigger guns are more vulnerable. the Old Firm are more vulnerable, perhaps. So I couldn't put anyone off that particular 4-1, but Rangers do seem to have the ability to go there and get a result. But there's no doubt that 4-1 might be worth chucking something on, just while Rangers are still settling into the season. But I doubt I'll be getting involved in that, since neither have played a competitive game so far.
3 matches on Sunday. Naturally, as you would expect, the champion Celtic are short, and they get started against Kilmarnock on home soil. Hibs go to St Mirren. I actually thought, Fraser, there might be a little bit of value in Hibs. The prices around about 95 are available. Now, Hibs are notoriously can be flaky. I think we know that, but you look at the way the fixtures, the way the Premier Sports Cup went for Hibs, the fact that they didn't get seeded in the knockout stage, they then landed Celtic. You now have a start of the season where Hibs face St Mirren and then Celtic back-to-back, Celtic in the league and Celtic in the cup. It's really put a big importance, I think, on this particular game. They have to go off to a start, Hibs. St Mirren, it's going to be hard to know how the European match is going to take a toll on them, but it's got to have some effect emotionally as well as physically. They're putting an awful lot into the tie. So I just thought at the prices, Hibs might be worth an interest in Paisley, but probably the main game of the day in terms of city rivalry, the derby, obviously in Dundee. It's massive. We've got Dundee United back in the top flight. Dundee, the opponents on the opening day, and Fraser, I know that this is a game that not only for the weekend but also for the entire season ahead is going to have great significance for you.
Yeah, I just looking at the prices both in the Antipost markets and for this game, there's a presumption from what I can see of regression in Dundee, and it's not something I can quite understand. They were 6th place last year as newcomers to the league under a rookie manager, when I don't think an awful lot was expected of them. But to suggest that's in some way fluky, I think is a bit unfair on them. To me, they look a progressive squad, a progressive team under a manager who's gone out in his own now and proved he's got a bit about him. He can get a team playing some really good football, and he also seems to be able to pick either a loan signing quite adeptly or a permanent signing as well. So I like what Tony Dockett has done there, and I think there's scope for them to improve in their second season. Now that to me would mean launching another top 6 challenge, for which they're actually 5-2 to do, and that's a price that I've taken. And I think when you weigh up who might get into the top 6 this season, most people would say, well, Aberdeen and Hibs would be the most logical teams to gate crash the top 6, and who might be the ones to drop out. You'd be looking perhaps at St Mirren or Dundee, but at that price, I think Dundee are one to get involved in. They've already recruited a couple of nice loan signings, and there'll still be more to come because they've got this tie in with Burnley, which they've used fairly well, which was set up by Charlie Adam. Yep. So later when they figure out who they're letting go as well, there might be more to come from there. Lyle Cameron looks at a player who has improved every single season. He's getting goals in his game now, playing for Scotland under 21s, and be very influential. In fact, I saw him scoring against St Johnstone last season, a superb goal. And I think he's there to stay at least for another year and help them progress and improve again. I thought they actually left a lot of points on the pitch last season. They played some great football, lost games from winning positions. Now, that's something that Tony Dock is surely going to address during this pre-season, or address as the season goes on, to ensure that doesn't happen again. So it's arguable that they should and could have been even better points total last season, possibly even involved in Europe. They've recruited Dundee fan Simon Murray from Ross County, who scored 14 league goals last season.
That's a tremendous signing, Fraser, isn't it? And if you think of what Simon Murray did for Ross, for a struggling Ross County team last season, that really should be a massive boost to Dundee, just on top of those creative players that you've been talking about, the Camerons.
Yeah, Cameron and McCowan and the like. I just think I loved playing with Simon Murray, a real high energy striker, so busy and mobile. and with a great finish on him. He's actually been nibbled in the top scorer market. I noticed they first chalked up a 66-1 about Simon Murray, and I see 25 here now. Listen, he's no spring chicken, so there's no surprise. It's no giveaway now at shorter prices. But if he was able to get 14 for Ross County, and I think this Dundee team have got more goals in them, so. I wouldn't put anyone off that. The only thing to say about that is Luke McCowan will be the man on penalties for Dundee. So that's always a guy to bear in mind when you're looking at top goal scorer and things like that. But I'm not sure he can get
any slight concerns, Fraser, that somebody might come for one of these boys before the end of August?
I suppose it's possible. I could just get an impression that they need another. They'll have, particularly Cameron, will have another season. He was linked with Hearts, I think, but it looks to me as if Hearts have maybe done their business. They've got the guys attacking midfield, middle to front. I'd be hopeful that they'd be staying about and helping Dundee. And certainly, if looking at a direct battle between Dundee United over the course of the season, Dundee were 10-11 in a match bet, and I thought that was worth a go as well. So I've got with them in a couple of ways, and listen, we'll certainly know a lot more after the first weekend of the season. There's no hiding place. It's a Dundee derby, but again, I just don't quite get how Dundee, who should be regarded now as a progressive Premiership side after what they did last year, and I think they'll improve against the new boys, Dundee United, who have come up from the Championship, and they're the team really with more questions to answer at this stage. So I think Dundee were bigger than 2-1 even to win on Sunday.
Yeah, you'd have to be with them on Sunday, Fraser. Yeah, given what you've just outlined.
Yeah, I think so. And I just wonder at United as well if I think they might get a bit nervous there. Jim Goodwin was not a favourite of the fans at Tynecastle throughout last season. Not too impressed at stages of what they saw, and I just don't think it would take a great deal for him to be back under pressure again. And goodness me, a defeat in the derby would certainly maybe cause him. I
was going to say it's not a great game. I mean, in some respects, you can look at it and say it's a great game for Dundee United to start, but the flip side, it could be the worst possible start. If
absolutely. Dundee
won, that's double-edged sword.
Dundee are coming in absolutely flying. I know they had an easier Premier Sports Cup group than Dundee United did. United were put away by Falkirk on opening day, and that could have been more that day. So, but they did okay, and Goodwin's gone back to his Macedonian market to unearth a guy who I think might be quite good this season, Christian Trapanovsky, sort of wide attacking player who's showed up quite well so far in this season. But I think we have to remember, other than Tam Court's season when they qualified for Europe, Dundee United are not an established Premiership club anymore. They struggled. They struggled under Mickey Mellon to making an indent into the top six. Didn't get there. Jim Goodwin had ample time when he took over a couple of seasons ago, and I think flattered to deceive, I think, a little bit in the relegation fight. Looked as if they might be pulling away, but they had the opportunity to do so and didn't. They ducked it and sunk straight back down again. Yeah. So there's a guy with a bit to prove. Jim Goodwin in the top flight as well. So I just get the feeling, the fans might be on the brink of turning if they got off to a bad start. And given my anti-post position, sorry Jim, I'm hoping that might be the case, in that Dundee can get off to a flyer at the weekend.
No need for apologies here, Fraser. When it's down to winning money, apologise to no one. Monday night brings the curtain down on the opening weekend for the top flight, just a few miles down the road from Dundee in Perth, where St Johnstone and Aberdeen will meet. Fraser, St Johnstone at this stage are the team who are favourite with the bookies to be bottom of the Scottish Premiership, but I'm not sure that's something you entirely agree with.
Yeah, they've been chalked up at, I think they're 2-1 favourites for the drop. Now that's despite them finishing above Ross County last season. Listen, I know there was nothing in it; it just went down to the last day of the season. But I do see the more scope for improvement in St Johnstone than I do in Ross County from departures and signings so far. The the thing I can't get my head around is St Johnstone's, the best department of St Johnstone's season, and it's a long time since we could have said this, is actually in the forward areas, where Benji Kimpioka is off to a great start. He's just guys he signed in January that just needed a bit of time to get going. Craig Levein got them in. You know, Benji's scored 5 goals in the Premier Sports Cup and looks really in the mood and really benefited from a good pre-season. Adama Sidibe, we saw a bit of what he did towards the end of last season. Terrific finisher, overhead kicks, great headers from distance, scoring vital goal against Ross County, which just about kept them up in the penultimate round of fixtures.
It was always going to take a bit of time for these boys to settle, wasn't it? And you're always looking for that. They might have to go and running immediately, but it's not always that easy.
No, it was a real slog last season for St Johnstone. It was a real struggle to watch. They scored 29 goals. That was joint worst with Livingston. We know what happened to them. So you know, they really got themselves out a hole. Maybe just, you know, Adama Sidibe scored 5 goals in his last 8 games. They've also added Uche Ekpiatsu, who the manager Craig Levein knows very well from his time at Hearts, and he'll be an absolute nuisance as well. And I think he'll play well with all the strikers. Andy Kirk, the assistant manager's son, Mackenzie's come in from Hearts. And I tell you what, his little cameos off the bench so far have been quite impressive. He's got a real finish on him and a bit of confidence. And I just think maybe when Kimpioka and Sidibe have run the legs off defenders, then, you know, bringing him on or Ekpiatsu on is not what centre-halves are going to be looking forward to. I actually quite like the look of that attacking unit. But on the flip side, the strange thing is with St Johnstone, they've lost their best player, who was Dimi Mitov last year, goalkeeper, to Aberdeen. So he'll be lining up in the opposition side. Yeah, and he was
worth an awful lot of points last season, Fraser, wasn't he? He was an outstanding goalkeeper.
Yeah, so listen, I understand why St Johnstone are in the frame to finish bottom, and I don't, by any stretch of the imagination, suggest that they're going to be hitting the top 6 heights, because, you know, they need to fix that particular situation. They brought Josh Ray in from Airdrie. He's made a couple of errors. Shot stopping's been quite impressive, but you know, he's still 23. He's taking a step up to the top flight for the first time, and I know Craig Levein is mulling over a move for an experienced goalkeeper to rival him, or maybe if he gets someone he definitely wants, then he might install him as number 1 and see what happens from there. But so that's the list. A little doubt over St Johnstone at the moment, but teams who've got that much of attacking firepower, if it clicks, and there are signs that they're capable of clicking up top with that. They've got 5. Don't forget Nicky Clark as well, who probably be on penalties if he's on the pitch. Has still to come in to that, and he's still probably I don't know if he's best finisher at the club, but certainly the cleverest striker and good foil for any of you. You can play with any of these guys. So there's 5 strikers there. Teams with that amount of quality up front of fibre don't normally get involved in a relegation. I mean, Motherwell last season, I think, were the 3rd top scorers in the league on something ridiculous, and you know they weren't involved. That's despite losing a chunk of games in the mid-season when they really struggled. They still scored goals. So I think as long as St Johnstone find a little fix for at the back, Josh Ray maybe grows into the role, the defence clicks as well. I don't think they'll be involved in the shake-up. And to be fair, the 3rd favourites to finish bottom were a Dundee, who I've already said I expect to have a good season. So
it just seems it's almost like, for the reasons you touched on earlier, Fraser, it's almost as if, for whatever reason, Dundee's efforts last season have been written off as some sort of fluke, misnomer, whatever it is. I don't know, but you know, as you've pointed out, some of them, for them to be 3rd favourites to go down, bizarre to me.
Yeah, they have been threatened, I think, in that position by United a little bit. There's been a little bit of money for their neighbours at 7-1 to finish bottom. That's gone 6-1. I thought United, you can also hedge your bets a little bit by playing some firms have priced up a bottom 2 market, where United are 3-1, and I see Ross County are 6-4. Now this is a Ross County team that's been involved in the shake-up at the bottom for the last couple of years. They've been in the playoffs back-to-back seasons. Now survived with the skin of their teeth, obviously, against Partick Thistle 2 years back, but you know, comfortably took care of Raith Rovers. But you know, they've just been down there an awful lot, and I'd be surprised if they're not involved in the shake-up down there. So, I mean, I've taken the 72 for them to finish bottom. they've lost obviously some very influential players, and Simon Murray we mentioned, Jan Danda to Hearts, Jack Baldwin, their captain's gone. Listen, I'm not entirely sure there's enough upgrades.
They're massive losses, Fraser, aren't they? Sorry, but they're massive losses. Actually, when you expect Danda and Murray, I mean, massive losses.
Yeah, they are, and I always look then at well, what's the manager done to replace these guys? And look, the measures have been taken to do so. Ronan Hale is the one who they hope can replace the goals. He's been brought in from Cliftonville. He could be anything, I guess. He's been described by Don Cowie as a bit of a kind of Simon Murray figure. He's scored already in the Premier Sports Cup. They'll be hoping he turns into more of a Liam Boyce figure who actually won the top scorer one season in Ross Kent up in Dingwall about 6 or 7 years ago. And he's brought in Ricky Lamy at the back, Jack Hamilton to compete in goals. But I'm not convinced there's enough upgrades there to say I don't think Ross Kent will be involved in the relegation picture. I suspect it may be another season of struggle, and I was perfectly happy to take that 7-2 and maybe hedge on that 6-4 bottom two finish, which they've been involved in the last couple of years.
That's us just about wrapped up the top flight for the weekend. Just one, Fraser, I think you're interested in a goal scorer in the Dundee derby as well. If we could just touch on that quickly, Luke McCowan.
Yeah, so just to mention McCowan, I did say he would be on penalties. So it'll be no surprise. Listen, there have been more penalties in the league last season. I think Luke got 10 goals anyway, and four of them maybe from the spot last season. Yeah. So no surprise if there's a bit of penalty controversy in a Tayside derby. And I thought 14-1 first and last was a bit of value in that one. Yeah, it's an interesting one to look out for, isn't it? I think you would say that to all punters if you're getting involved in scoring markets. Pay particular notice to penalty takers, and if you can get penalty takers at double figure odds. Yeah, I've noted this season that a lot of the penalty takers I figured out that who are going to be on spot kick duty for the teams are not automatic. Bets for who you would say would be first top scorer. They're not all strikers. So it's maybe something we can touch on as the weeks go on and see if there is value in those markets, first and last goal scorer, from the guys who are actually on spot kicks, might be midfielders or defenders, as opposed to the guys who automatically play up top and your eyes are drawn to them as first goal scorer bet. So let's have a little go with Luke first and see how he gets on.
The Championship is always fascinating. It's such a cutthroat league. Fraser, trying to get winners and trying to get bets in there is always tricky. Some of the results just leave you scratching your head. The outright markets ahead of the season of Wraith and Partick Thistle at the top, but it's wide open, and I know there's a couple of teams that you like at bigger odds to do some damage over the course of the season in the anti-post markets. Yeah,
I must have a masochistic streak to want to get involved, to want to bet in this league. It's crazily tight, as you say, but absolutely fascinating. I love getting stuck into the Championship. The last 4 years, we've seen the teams that have dropped down from the Premiership, relegated, go off either odds on or pretty hot favourites to bounce back at the first time of asking. That's exactly what each of those four teams have done. So we've had Hearts, Kilmarnock, Dundee, and Dundee United all obliging. So the difference this time is that the bookies have decided Livingston aren't the team to do that. Now, whether that's they're considered not a name like those Stat Quartet, or they were so poor. I think they maybe only won 4 games all season. Look, there's nothing against the manager. I think we all rate Davy Martindale as a good boss. He could easily get a team together there to mount a challenge, but they have been written off a little bit, as you say, because Partick and Wraith, some firms price them up as joint favourites at 7-2. Yeah. So it's absolutely wide open. I think I noticed that there was about 6 or 7 teams are single figures in the Championship. So
the bookies are struggling with it clearly. The bookies are struggling with it clearly just as much as we are, which is a good position to be in as a punter if you can spot something.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the way they finished, I think the way the league finished last season, we had Inverness going into the relegation playoff with 41 points, and Morton finishing just outside the playoff places on 45 points. So you could actually have backed a team to be to get promoted in the Championship and end up worrying they might get dropped into the relegation playoff in the final weeks of the season. That's the way it went last year. But I think I just have to try and look for something a bit different here. I've nothing against Wraith Rovers, nothing against Partick Thistle as such, but is there anything that they can eke out massive improvement, or is there scope for a team in there to improve past them on what they did last season and their business so far in the summer? And I just thought there was a bit of value about Airdrie Onions at 12-1. I think maybe most of that price is gone. I mean, I think you maybe see about 10-1 at the moment.
I think they're still double figures about Fraser. Yeah,
they're still okay. I probably wouldn't go any lower than that. But I think they could be something different. Your man there, Rhys McCabe, has stood out as a very highly regarded young manager. I think he's knocking on as a boss a bit now. He's 32. He's made it now. I think 29. But I think he did amazing last year to finish fourth. That was including Josh Ray, the aforementioned Josh Ray in goals. I don't mind the business he's done at all. In fact, I'm quite impressed. Talking about bringing in another striker from Cliftonville, Ben Wilson, who scored in all 4 of his Premier Sports Cup games. He looks ripe to score a lot of goals at Championship level. Terrell Aguiman looks a terrific unit brought in from Manchester. He was Manchester City youngster. He's all come in loan from Middlesbrough. Chris Mockery's a young player that I still think has got loads to offer. Former Dundee United, 21. He managed to get hold of him as well. So I just think there's loads of promise in them. They went up to Aberdeen. We're leading Aberdeen at Pittodrie in the Cup, and I'm told by neutral observers that was a really, really eye-catching 45 minutes. And dropping down a level to their own level in the second tier, I think they could have a great run at it. Look, you could go through the whole division and think teams could compete. Scott Brown will be popular at Ayr, but I think 7-1's short enough about them, to be honest. And then Falkirk, the Invincibles last season, under John McGlynn, and look, not saying poorer teams, but teams with a lesser profile have gone up from League One to the Championship and put in fight in recent years. I include John McGlynn's Wraith Rovers, that might have been forgotten a few years ago when they came up in the COVID year and finished third. So that each way money copped then. Queen's Park came up under Owen Coyle and got involved in the shake-up for each way as well. And look what he did last year.
South of the border.
Sorry, Swanee?
Okay, Ipswich south of the border last year.
Yeah. Look, so there's space for this, and John McGlynn's a terrific manager. They're 15-2, and I can see their football being better suited as well by playing in the Championship. So, look, those would be my 2 against the field, Airdrie and Falkirk at the prices. But look, really looking forward to this Championship, and Airdrie v Wraith tomorrow is a cracking way to get things started.
And given the fact you're with Airdrie, Fraser, it stands to reason you'll probably be with them on the opening day.
Well, I wondered whether this might be the chance to catch them, to catch Airdrie, probably at a bigger price. I'm hoping, fingers crossed. They are a team that can compete again, go beyond 4th place, and mount a challenge. So, look, if they're going to do that, then they need to do the business on opening day. No pressure with this. Dundee playing Dundee United and Airdrie playing Wraith on the first day. So this could. Let's hope that this goes spectacularly right.
It's a spectacularly correct start. League One is a mishmash as usual. Listen, it's a great league to dig 1 or 2 out as the season goes on. But I think we've had a look through the opening day's fixtures and nothing jumps out automatically. League Two, the outright market for that, Clyde are the favourites, and East Fife are backing them up in the markets at around 7-2. Fraser, you have a view on League One and League Two?
League One, I found really, really difficult. It might be something we could revisit in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely, that's the thing to point out to guys, isn't it? Guys and girls out there, that listen, if you don't see a bet, just leave it. there'll be one next week. You don't have to always get involved, you know. You don't see something, just let it go.
Well, let's have a look and see what transpires in the first couple of weeks of the season, see if anything catches the eye, because there's just so many negatives about the teams at the top of the market in League One that's probably why I've left it alone. I think the full-time teams are Queen of the South and Inverness. Now, goodness me, Inverness, what next for them after a chaotic summer and disconnect between club and fans and ownership? So they're probably worth leaving alone. Listen, Peter Murphy deserves his chance at Queen of the South, no question, after the job he did at Annan. So, you know, see, these three remain full time, and you'd expect them to be involved in the shake-up. But Arbroath, it's hard. You know, there's a club team that might just be on a slippery slope. They're favourites in the market, so I'd rather leave them alone. Yeah. I suppose the one that might be of interest and worth keeping an eye on is Alloa, under impressive manager Andy Graham. And look, they beat St Johnstone in the Premier Sports Cup, but then couldn't follow up against Morton last Saturday. We're beating at Capello, so. But that win over St Johnstone maybe shows what they're capable of. But you've got a
firm review in League Two, haven't you?
Yeah. I mean, it's Ian McCall against Dick Campbell. Those are two gaffers you would trust to get the job done, aren't they? Yeah. So I can see this being a match between Clyde and East Fife. So I would just go and favour the bigger price probably in the men from Metho and Dick Campbell. I saw them last Saturday leaking 5 goals, would you believe? So it may be a bit strange for me to then whiz them up to go on the winning title. But that was actually the first goals they conceded in 6 games. So the defence is marshalled by Brian Easton again this season, and I would just trust Dick to get things right there. I'm sure they'll be in the shake-up at 7-2. So I've backed them.
That's great. Fraser, like we touched on at the start of the show, it's such an exciting weekend, isn't it? All the hopes and dreams are alive. It's one to really get really savour and get really excited about. So listen, we really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for all the tips for the weekend. I'm sure you'll come good for everyone. And thank you to all for watching, and stay tuned to the Daily Record online, and catch us next week on The Betting Show.